and you touch the light. You touch the light.
Well, hello and good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to our usual Thursday night sessions with you. And for those of you who are online, we're always glad to have you, and today is no less. But we are especially happy to have a few folks here with us. And why that is especially so is because we had announced that we would be online only because of the renovations that are planned. And as it turns out, those renovations have not begun yet. And so until they do begin, which I'm not sure exactly when that's going to be this month, you're welcome to continue to check to see whether we are having anyone here live, because it would say so on the flyer, whether it's just online or you're welcome to come in. So a very special welcome to those who are here. It's not exactly standing room only, but we're very, very happy to have you. And it's cold as well, and going to be even colder, I'm told, by the time we leave here. So again, a very special welcome. Well, as usual, we have these topics that we expect will endear you to join us. And tonight's topic is no less, keeping in mind that the year has just begun. We are expecting to help you this evening to invest. As the flyer that you read said, invest in self to earn abundance. And so since the year is now beginning, and you might be also making some other investments, except this is an investment of the spiritual kind. So, but the main difference between the investment that you are being encouraged to make here, as opposed to Wall Street or wherever else you might be investing, there's no risk of loss. And everything that you invest here will have a return. And in fact, as the flyer says, it will be a return in abundance. And so, and of course, like all investments, you usually would be investing time. You would be investing money, mostly if it's those kinds of physical investments, those kinds of stocks. We have a different set of stocks that we're going to offer you this evening. And but the truth is, everything that you're experiencing is because of some investment that you have made. And that is both positive in terms of the return and negative. And so whether it's money or time, or these days emotional investments, they all bring returns. But what I want you to be present to is that somewhere along the line in the past, what you're experiencing in the present was a function of that investment that you made. And so, given that the year has just begun, we want to interest you in some spiritual investments. And I can assure you that those investments will be positive, and you will get in return abundance. So there isn't any chance that you will lose any investment that you make here. So in fact, if I can read a little bit more from this, it says that you're invited to care for body and mind and soul, and thus create a foundation for a life filled with joy, prosperity, and fulfillment. Prioritizing your well-being opens the door to abundance. In all its forms, your time, your energy, and attention are sacred resources. Aligning with your innate virtues attracts opportunities, attracts abundance, and strengthens relationships. By investing in yourself, because this is, you're investing in you, so this investment is not an external one. You're investing in yourself. You not only elevate your life, but also inspire abundance in the world around you. And so tonight we're asking you to take the first step toward a more radiant, abundant you, because your greatest asset is you. So I can't repeat this too often. There's no question of loss. So how do you invest in yourself? How is that done? In other words, this is not something external. So you have to go within and make that investment. And more importantly, you have to decide what it is that you're investing in, and that's what we will help you with this evening. We will share all of our tips with you. But what I want to say initially is that the main investment that you have to make so that you can access what's available is silence. And of course, that's in keeping with what you've been exposed to hear. Silence and solitude and being introverted and reaching deep within to become more acquainted with that which you are not sufficiently acquainted with, because we have become so external and extroverted. And in fact, what we're dealing with on the outside most of the time does not lend itself to the kind of environment that you want, which is a quiet one, because we live in a world of noise. And in fact, the noisier it is, the more it is appreciated. So I just want to read something to you with regarding embracing silence. And what it says here is that silence is critical, is as critical to mental health as vitamins are to physical well-being. This perspective is particularly striking in today's frenetic, screen-filled environment. People obsess over what foods they put in their bodies, whether it's looking for organic and vegan or gluten-free, sugar-free, or no artificial coloring meals. So the question asked is, why aren't they as picky about what they invest through their senses? And then it's very purposeful. It says the mental garbage we take in is arguably more harmful than the occasional cheeseburger or Twinkie. Well, I'm not so sure about Twinkie. might be more harmful than the cheeseburger, but I'm not so sure about the Twinkie. I'm not even sure Twinkie is food, but I think Twinkie has like a 10-year shelf life. So I don't know if that qualifies as food. So this barrage of sensory stimuli asks more of our cognition than it is equipped to handle. So just as bodies cannot manufacture essential nutrients and must get them from external food sources, our minds need essential nutrients too. And the chief nutrient that the mind needs is silence. Moments of quiet allow the brain to decompress, organize, and restore depleted cognitive resources. And so if you haven't made time yet for meditation, 2025 is a good time to begin. Like I said, the year is still young, and that's a good resolution to make. So you want to make time for that. And there's just one other little section I want to read from this, and it says that one of the most insidious myths is that multitasking makes you more productive. This is demonstrably not true. Research has proven over and over again that multitasking lowers efficiency. The ability to concentrate is lowered as well, and the quality of work. Trying to multitask forces the brain to switch back and forth among tasks, one of the costliest things it can do in terms of energy expenditure. So you want to be economical with your energy. And the point of view here is that multitasking doesn't lend itself to that. And there's some more here about especially the digital world that we're living in, which we're all fighting that addiction. So we're going to have you invest in yourself. And I want to give you some guidance on how you might do that. Of course, as I just mentioned, silence is important. This introversion, meditation will help you with that. But I want to show you our list of spiritual stocks that are available to you. And then we'll have you make some choices about what you want to invest in. Could you put that up for us, Jose? Can you get it over here as well?
No.
Ah, okay. Okay, so could you folks here in the center see that? Okay, so what if should we have them maybe face it or no?
Yes.
Just, yeah, maybe those three chairs, you can just put them, you know, yeah, yeah. So just move them, you know, as close as possible. You can bring it all the way up here, Jose.
We can see it well.
You need it needs to be larger for you. Is that what you're saying?
No, we can see it properly.
You can see it. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's good.
So we have more than enough spiritual stocks that are available to you. And a lot of what you'll discover, I don't mean just this evening, but I expect that as you continue onwards with where we're starting tonight, is that they're very related. And in many ways, once you get started, you benefit from them all. And of course, the reason it is offered in this way is that, of course, we're reminding you that you're investing in the self, in the soul. Okay? And so the seed of attitude, the attitudes that derive from you being, the more soul conscious you become, the more you're able to appreciate all that's available to you from within that you're able to make manifest without. And so we're going to have a very busy session. And what I'd like you to do, since you're looking at them, what would you like to invest in? You can select from the whole spectrum, and of course we will be investing together, and so everyone will benefit from the choices that the individual choices that you are making. So who would like to start us off? What on this list of spiritual stocks you want to have in your spiritual portfolio this year, and every year for that matter? Could you let them the mic?
That's all. Yeah. You can come and watch here.
You're not able to see it as well? You know, Jose, could you send it to the, oh, I was going to ask them if they had their devices with them, because we can send it to them. We can send it to each of them on their own device.
I just took a picture and I can see I have on my phone.
Okay, so what would you like to invest in? We have two experts here that can guide you.
I think mine would be fearlessness.
Fearlessness, all right. And so we have our first investor, and fearlessness is the choice made. So what is that anyway? What is, how do we define that? What is fearlessness?
I think just like,
Jose?
Yes.
I think it's just going. like,
No, let me, I just wanted, Jose, can we have the microphone?
Fearlessness is.
Yeah, because I want to be sure that I know what it is you want from this investment.
Yes. I think when I have a desire to do something, to not be so worried and have so much doubt or fear about it going wrong, and just trusting that if it's with a positive intention,
Mhm,
it will work out in my favor,
mhm.
and not having so much fear about kind of putting myself out on a limb.
Yes, yes.
I think that's what that means to me.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm sure there are others who can identify with that. You know, there are all kinds of fear shows up in so many different ways. It shows up in terms of anxiety. It shows up in the form of inferiority in terms of your own self-esteem, not feeling that you're qualified, or that you are prepared. So fear is pervasive. Fear is pervasive. And in fact, in a discussion, I was part of recently, where what was being discussed is all of the divisiveness that we're experiencing, not only here, but everywhere. And one participant offered that it is because there is no love in the world that we're living in, and that we are really so self-possessed and self-absorbed that in fact what's coming across is hate, really. And that was offered because the point that was being made there is that love and hate are opposites. But what we found as the discussion continued is that the opposite of hate is really fear. And that is because people are so fearful that they respond instead of lovingly, they respond aggressively. It's kind of a self-defense, if you will. So fear comes up that way as well. You know, this not being able to face things. And so, yes.
So my question to you is, you just said that people have that self-defense tendencies. Are you trying to say that they cannot show love because they have fear, or is the fear limiting their natural flow of love?
I would say both. I would say both. And this is why I'm glad that we're having the discussion in the context of being souls, being soul conscious. And because we don't see ourselves as well, eternal. We don't see ourselves as this entity that is beyond harm. And with changing your perspective of how you see yourself, not as this physical being, but as the being within the body, you can begin to appreciate that you have a whole lot more control than you think you do, because everything that you are, as I said earlier, that you are experiencing is your own creation. So the life is not really happening to you. It appears that way, but you are making life happen. So when you can take that responsibility, you're then able to have the confidence. I would say the opposite, if we were to look for an opposite of fear, it would be confidence. It would be confidence that you are, not only that you are capable, but especially that you are beyond harm, and that you are knowledgeful. Because when we understand who we are essentially, all the things that we experience that we lack is a function of not knowing the self, which essentially is knowledge and love and peace and truth and all of those things that gives you the self-esteem that you seem to be lacking and that you respond to from what you're having to deal with. And so fearlessness would come from understanding that you are beyond harm, understanding that you are infinite, if you will, and that you are this entity that has all of the powers within to overcome any obstacle, so that the fearlessness would come from not being fearful of anything or anyone, because you would lose that body, that feeling of being at the mercy of circumstances, and you would be at cause all the time, and that will come from you keeping that as one of your goals as you go inward. And so using meditation, using the silence, using the knowledge that we continually are giving you with regard to who you essentially are, you'll find that you'll have less and less to be fearful of, and you would then be able to make more of that kind of an investment. You know, someone mentioned to me recently, he says, you know, when you go to the edge, you either fall off or you jump off. But of course, you have to have the courage to go to the edge. And so I think that that is a very good stock, if you will, to start us off. And so you could make a note of that on your own list if it wasn't there before, and that is that you are capable of overcoming any obstacle. All of what you are dealing with is a function of what you are creating. And so once you can take responsibility for that, you can then be able to change the way you're looking at that particular obstacle. It then becomes something that you can use rather than something that can harm you. And you would be able to take up that challenge. And of course, with with repetition, you get more and more confidence as well. And so you need to be able, you need to see everything that you're dealing with in that perspective, that this is your creation, and that you can then take responsibility and begin to see yourself as creator and start to make the kind of decisions and choices consistent with that. So that would be that's how I would make that investment. Do you want to add something, Jose?
No,
Oh, okay. All right. Any questions or comments about that before we move on to the next investment that someone else may want to make? Okay. Well, all of these are being offered. So we can take any one that you would like to examine and continue on with our investments. In the meantime, I wanted to, because we are in this digital age and so much of our time is invested in that, let me just finish these last two paragraphs on this. It says that the digital world leaves little room for silence, whether in the workplace, at home, or even on vacation. We're surrounded by screens, including this one, that constantly demand our attention. And the human brain is not designed for this kind of nonstop engagement. We need moments of pause, not only to regain composure, but also to let our brains function at their best. Consider how often you find yourself reaching for your phone the moment you have a few seconds of inactivity, whether standing in line, waiting for a friend, or even in the middle of a conversation. The temptation is to check your device. So the idea of simply sitting in silence has become almost unthinkable. And so again, silence is the way in, and you're becoming more and more conscious of your self, of the self, is what these exercises are about. Okay, what else would you like us to talk about investing in?
Detachment and serenity.
I didn't hear that, Jose. What was that?
ask it to repeat.
Could you say that again, please?
Detachment and serenity.
Ah, detachment
Serenity.
and serenity. In fact, mastering one may lead to the other. So we'll start with detachment. How would you define that? But when you say you want to be detached, just want to be sure what you mean by that.
Being elevated and transcending the difficulties of our living.
Okay.
Being more elevated and having more elevated thoughts and being detached from everything that happens around you as a consequence.
Okay, very good, very good. So most of the difficulty we have with regard to detachment is because of the false identities that we have. We have so many things that we identify with, starting with the body that has us attached. And so this detachment begins with understanding who you are. It goes right back to that very first question that we take up with you when we start our foundation courses, which is, who are you? And because we have identified with everything physical, including the body, we create attachments because our understanding of who we are is related to what we have, especially. And so we spend a lot of time accumulating because we evaluate ourselves based, and of course others evaluate us that way as well in terms of what we have. And so that's why there is so much consumption. And so we are attached to those things that we have decided gives us value. I've heard it put in this way. We are attached to possessions. We are attached to people. And we are attached to position as well. And you see, if you are what you have, then when you don't, you aren't. And the same goes for what you do. You know, the statistics are that when people retire, because they've identified so much with their position or their career, that they usually the life after their profession is usually very short or not very healthy. So their retirement leads to premature expiring, if you will. And of course, that's the same for position. We may not retire, but we may lose a particular position, or we may not get a promotion. And so all of what we attach to and have difficulty detaching from are what we are using to give ourselves value and to give our life value. And so if you're going to be investing in detachment, the first and most important detachment, which would remove all the others, is the detachment from not just the body, but as we like to call it, the role that you are playing. Because we're all actors. And of course, that understanding is not something that's new. For those of you who have done a lot of reading, and certainly that would, if it includes William Shakespeare, you know, where he says that all the world's a stage, and every one of us are here playing our part. The problem is that as we play our part, we become the part, we identify with the part. And so just as we identify with, you know, the part has a name, or meaning the actor has a name. And we identify with the action itself. And so we forget that we are the we're the player. And so the first and most difficult detachment for us to make is detaching from the part, detaching from the physical. In other words, when let's see if I can give an example that, and not date myself too much. See, when Christopher Reeves is playing Superman, he doesn't think that he's Superman. He understands that he is Christopher Reeves. And in fact, if after he leaves the set and he thinks he can fly, he would discover very quickly that he can't, because that's the part. And so we are all like that, in that we are the being using the body for a particular purpose. And so if we can keep that in mind, if we can be present to that, that first and foremost attachment would be broken. Imagine if you were living your life knowing that when the body outlives its usefulness, of course, anything physical is subject to entropy and decay, but you're not. And so, again, with meditation and with the silence that you'll find, silence is you might think of it as the incubator of our very existence. And so when you're able to go there, what you find there is not, Emily is not there. Mother is not there. Accountant is not there. American is not there. All these are false identities. And so once you're able to have this true identity, you then would be able not only to be detached from the role that you're playing, but you're able to be detached from all the other things that are in connection with that role, all of the other actors that you're coming into contact with, all of the other situations that you're dealing with is a function of the part that you're playing. So this is very subtle, and I'm not suggesting that you can do this at the snap of a finger, but the investment we're talking about is an investment in time as well as in silence. And so as you go within with that in mind, that you are not your body, it will lead to all of the other things that you are not. You're not your name. You're not your profession. You're not your nationality. You are not male or female. You are this eternal point of light that has this particular function that you're engaged in using the body. And when you can get that distance, all of the other challenges with regard to attachment will get handled in that process. And it will lead to that serenity. It will lead to that peace of mind, because a lot of your peacelessness also has to do with the actions that you are performing. and whether or not you are doing it well enough. And as I said earlier, a lot of these things are connected, and that's part of being fearful as well. And so that serenity comes from knowing who you are. And when you're clear about that, you have that sense of certainty and confidence, and your well-being, your spiritual well-being is assured. And in fact, so is the physical as a result. And so you can add those two to your list. So serenity and detachment would certainly go hand in hand. Okay, how are we doing so far? You feeling the possibilities for abundance? Now, of course, we were talking about an abundant life, and it doesn't necessarily mean that this wouldn't translate into physical abundance, but that's not the goal. So, but yes, there will be, you will become more efficient. You'll become more purposeful, and certainly that can lead to the kind of increases in remuneration and so on. So you can think of the physical benefits of this type of investment as the collateral benefits. But let's stay with these spiritual stocks and see how many we can help you to get to this evening. Anyone else would like to select something they want to work on, they want to invest in this evening? How about you, Jose? You want to make an investment? Imperfection? Introspection. Introspection. That's a good one. Especially because we're naturally focused out, aren't we? Because we use these eyes, and mostly we're looking outward. And so introspection doesn't come naturally. And of course, if you've been around us, meaning the Brahma Kumari meditation program, long enough, you know that we encourage you to meditate not with your eyes closed. Because the important thing we want to communicate there is that you have the power to take your awareness wherever you choose. And you can remove your awareness from outer to inner without closing your eyes, which allows you to be in that state of introspection anytime. Of course, depending on what activity you're involved in. But it is you that's in charge of that awareness. The eyes being open or closed doesn't mean that's where you are focused. Lots of times you might find yourself what we refer to as daydreaming, where you're not even seeing anything that's going on around you because you're focused inwards. And of course, I'm sure you know a few people who sleep with their eyes open. They're certainly not seeing anything, but the eyes are open. That's because they're not focused there. So this introspection, which ought to be our default condition, but it's not, is something that we can cultivate. And again, silence is the medium. So you need to seize opportunities to be in silence. In fact, if I could go back to what I was just reading, it said we need moments of pause, not only to regain composure, but also to let our brains function at their best. And in terms of spiritual fitness, it requires the same three things that we need to attend to with physical fitness, which means you need to have good nourishment. You need to have adequate rest, and you need to have adequate exercise. Those three things will make you physically fit. The same three will make you spiritually fit. And so what would be the nourishment spiritually that will make you fit? And of course, this would lend itself to you being introverted. What would that be? What would be the nutrient for the self that would do that? Any thoughts on that? Because that's what we want to do as well this evening. We want to make you spiritually fit. Say that again?
Meditation.
That's part of it, but that addresses one of the three things that we need. Someone offered meditation. So certainly meditation is important. And so meditation would be what would give you that rest. Meditation is the rest for the soul. It calms the soul and it puts the soul at rest. So that would be one of the things that would assure you of spiritual fitness. And what about the nourishment?
Positive thoughts. Positive thoughts.
Ah, yes, someone here said positive thoughts. And so in general, you would get those positive thoughts from what you're ingesting mentally. And of course, that is the knowledge that you are seeking. So a lot of the positive thoughts that would nourish your soul would come from knowledge, spiritual knowledge, of course. And that would give you kind of nourishment to have you be spiritually fit. And so we have one more that's important. And of course, that is the exercise. So what would give you that spiritual exercise? What's the treadmill? What's the treadmill for that? Well, we refer to it here as churning, meaning the kind of introspective questions that you should have. One of the things we don't do enough is to question ourselves. You know, if you do something that you are unhappy with, you should really ask yourself, but not in a rhetorical way, why did I do that? And you're going to get an answer. And you'll be quite certain that it's the right answer. Because of course, the self can only give you what is true. And so you should make that's a good habit to question yourself. Why did I do that? And by the same token, you can ask yourself what to do in a situation. And there's a good formula for doing that. So when you have a decision to make about something, you can be very specific about making that decision. And the first thing you should question, you should ask is why? Why do I want to do this? What's the motive? So let's say you're thinking of going on a cruise. You know what? 2025, I want to go on a cruise. I'm going on a cruise. So the question you should ask, especially if you're a little bit uncertain of whether that's the right thing to do, is why do I want to go on a cruise? Why? What's the motive? And depending on the answer, you might decide that that's not the action, especially if the answer you get is that, well, you'll be getting away from something or someone. Because that doesn't work, because you take them with you anyway. So answering that question, the motive is the very first question that you have to ask. And you have to get a yes to all three of these questions. You have to approve of all three. So why do I want to do this? And then the next question is the very action that you're taking. Because let's say you do want to get away from a particular situation because you want to take yourself away. You've decided that I need to take myself away from this situation. So the question is, okay, that's what I should do, but is a cruise the right action? Do I have to remove myself physically? Or is this something I can do mentally? Something I can do that's not going to cost me $3,000. Not that the cost should prevent you, but you want to question the action. Even if the motive is okay, you want to question the action. And then the last thing you want to do, the third and just as important, are what are the consequences going to be if you take those two actions? What are the consequences? Am I likely to lose my job? Or is the homework I'm helping out with my niece and nephew going to suffer for that? Or am I going to be spending more money than I should be spending given my income and so on? And if you are very clear that you can deal with those consequences, then it's the right action. And so we have this great unlimited resource within. We are knowledgeful, we are full of knowledge. And of course, one of the reasons that we are full of knowledge is that the being, the soul, is unlimited. And it's been here. And this might not be something that you subscribe to, but you've been here before. And you're going to be here again. I used to, before I got a little bit more serious, I used to be very, I can't think of the best word anyway, but I would welcome Jehovah's Witnesses because I would interact with them and they would tell me that, that Jesus is coming again. And I would say, that's true. And so are you. Not just him, we all keep coming. And that would be a very interesting conversation. And some of you may not subscribe to that, and that's okay. But I assure you, once you start going within, you start appreciating your own infinity, your own indestructible, eternal you will start to make itself manifest in your thinking and in your outward behavior.
What? So, since you said that we will come back again, so
Yeah.
is there, like, is that a cycle or is there?
Yes, it is a cycle.
This ongoing?
Yes, it is a cycle. But that puts us at odds with those who still advocate that time isn't linear. So this school, this university, we have a whole different way of looking at things. And we especially understand and use that to inform our living, that everything is cyclical. So you have a wealth of knowledge based on all the time that you've been here. But you haven't been Josephine or Fred or Jose or Ananta except once, which is the role you're playing now. But you were someone else, even a different gender, a different race, a different nationality. All of that is part of the. You remember, this is a journey, okay? But it's a cyclical one.
Question, sorry.
That's okay.
So, that, this is the cycle, what is the purpose, like?
That would take, we don't have enough time for that one, but yes, so the question asked, well, if you're coming back, what is the purpose? Well, one purpose would be to do it better the next time. Wouldn't you want to do that? But that has its own catch-22 as well. Because the kind of investments that we make become part of our journey. And so we're going somewhere, and we want to get there as quickly as possible so that we can have that serenity that someone talked about recently. Well, as it turns out, we are out of time, which is unfortunate, and too soon we have to go. But I hope that we have put you on an investment track. What we promised we would do tonight, based on the flyer, is that we want to create a foundation for a life filled with joy, prosperity, and fulfillment. Prioritizing your well-being opens the door to abundance. And so I am trusting that in the short time that we've had together to begin this, you have a good sense of how you can proceed on your own. And everything on this tree is available to you. Contentment, tolerance, self-discipline, patience, cheerfulness, everything here. And these are stocks that we're giving away. You have to buy them with your time and with your silence. So make time for both. And I assure you that the abundance that we promised will be yours to enjoy and to share. So thank you very much for joining us from wherever. And again, a special thank you for those who came this evening. And so let's have a moment of silence together. And we're still in the first month, so a very happy new year. Om Shanti. And if any of you would like a copy of that that tree of investments, let us know, and we can certainly